joining us today. So I'll introduce Antoine. Antoine is a real estate investor and entrepreneur from California. He invests in particular in properties out of state. He has sold over $11 million worth of cash flowing real estate and helping clients starting getting into real estate, or even for like industry veterans, he sells real estate to them as well. And he's also the author of A Millennial's Guide to Real Estate Investing. He has his own book. And I'll leave it to you, Antoine, for your presentation.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for having me. Is there some people are asking me, is there a passcode to get in? Meeting passcode.
What do you say, John? There shouldn't be a passcode, right?
I didn't think so either.
There shouldn't be, but let me double check. Because it might be just limited to UCI.
That's why. All right, let me delete this. Hold on.
You could send.
I posted it online. That's why I said let me delete this.
No, you're good. You can post it online.
Okay. You're gonna open it up.
I'm just not sure how to open it.
Do you want to post it like with the code or something? If they want to get in the Zoom call, you can just maybe post it again with the code.
Oh, here, I'll just delete it. All right, cool. There we go. And at least people stop blowing me up. All right, cool. So yeah, thank you for the introduction. Thanks for having me back again. I think I was here a year ago?
Spring?
Was that spring? Okay, cool. Got it. So yeah, thanks for having me again. Let me share my screen. Oh yeah, one person got in. All right, cool. All right, you guys can see this screen here?
Yes.
All right, cool, awesome. Yeah, so pretty much this business that I've created is called Martel Turnkey. And I'll of course start from my background. So my name's Antoine Martel. I was born in Toronto, raised in San Mateo, California, currently living in Los Angeles. I graduated from Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, studied entrepreneurship. While I was in university, I realized I didn't want to go and work for somebody else after graduating. I wanted to start my own company, do my own thing. I didn't want to go graduate. You know, you guys are all in university, so I didn't want to go and graduate and work for somebody else after graduating or once I graduated. So my junior year of university, my brother took me and my dad to a real estate investing seminar. We learned about flipping houses, investing in cash flowing rental properties, flipping houses, all these kinds of things in California. And I realized that this is something that I really just got addicted from going to that seminar about real estate investing. I knew it was something that I wanted to do. And from there, I just kept on really studying my ass off about real estate and real estate investing and the different ways to invest, different ways to make money. And I tried to invest locally here in California, in LA, in the Bay Area. And after like a year of making a bunch of offers every single month, analyzing deals, I realized that it just didn't work. I didn't have enough capital. My family, we didn't have millions of dollars in the bank to be able to use to buy these properties. We only had $40,000. That's how much my dad had saved up that he was willing to invest. That's all the money we had. We didn't have $1 million, and every single house we would make an offer on, we kept getting outbid and outbid and outbid, and all the offers were all cash, etc. So what I did is I started looking out of state. I moved all my college courses from 5 to 10 p.m. at night so that during the day I can go and network with a bunch of people during the day and build that team out of state. Because through networking, I realized that investing in California in real estate, unless you have $1 million, is extremely difficult. And so I realized that out of state was going to be the way to go for me. And by looking at investing out of state, I began choosing markets, and one of those markets was Memphis, Tennessee. And in Memphis, Tennessee, I finally found a property manager, a contractor, and a realtor, and I made a bunch of offers on properties. My last semester of university, I got my first house under contract for $35,000. Renovation was like $5,000. So used my dad's money, his $40,000 to buy the house, renovate it, and then we did a cash out refinance after and pulled the money all out of that house. The house was worth like $55,000 to $60,000 after. So I then I pulled the money out. I did a cash out refinance, pulled the money out. I was graduating college at that point, and I went to my dad and I said, hey, I can keep doing this after graduating college. This was May of 2017. And when I graduated. And so I graduated, I said, hey, I can keep doing this after graduating college. He said, okay, sure. And then I graduated in May. I kept buying house after house after house after house until December 2017. So like 6 months after graduating, I think I had like 8 single family homes in Memphis that I had bought, renovated, rented out, and refinance. So I'd pull all the money out. I kept growing it, and I grew the property, that rental property portfolio with which is called the BRRRR method. So I'll talk about that later on, but that's called the BRRRR method, or it means buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So I'll explain more of that later. Now, what happened once I had 8 to 10 single family homes is people started reaching out to me and my family to invest in real estate. They started saying, hey, how the hell are you guys investing in Memphis or Cleveland or St. Louis from California? And how the hell can we do the same? How can we grow a rental property portfolio? And that's when Martel Turnkey was founded. And so now Martel Turnkey, or what is a turnkey company? So essentially what we do now is we go buy houses, rehab them, rent them out, and we sell them as cash flowing rental properties to our clients. The clients can essentially turn the key and collect cash flow. It's really for people who work full time but need or want to invest their money in real estate instead of the stock market. And right now we're doing anything from 10 to 20 houses a month that we're buying, rehabbing, renting, and selling. So it's really high volume properties. And we're in 2 markets right now, Memphis, Tennessee, and Cleveland, Ohio. Here's some things we look for in a market: diverse workforce, look at who the large employers are, look at how many Fortune 500 companies. Just so happens they have 3 major sports teams, which helps with businesses and also with the real estate and real estate prices. Amazon is building 2 warehouse facilities, over 1 million square feet of Amazon warehouse facilities being built, some other big projects. And so just basic things that we look for in a market when we're choosing a market. And here's some sample properties of the kind of end product that we sell. This is not like a sales presentation or anything like that. This is just showing you the steps of the business that I built, and then I'll show you after this presentation, then I'll show you kind of like behind the curtain numbers of how I did what I did and what the numbers look like for these kinds of properties. So just take the first house, for example, single family home, Cleveland, Ohio. It's worth, or we sell the property for $120,000, or a client comes and buys the house from us for $120,000. They put 20% down. They get a loan for 30 years at 5% interest. So they come in with $27,000 to buy this property. So that'll be the 20% down plus some closing costs. That property will rent out for $1,100, property taxes, insurance, property management, and then debt service. So they're making $314 a month net. So initial investment, $27,000, and they're making $314 a month. If you do the math, that's a 14% cash on cash return. Now here's another example of a duplex. Purchase price way lower, $74,000. Not that great, not as good as an area as Tuxedo, which is in Parma, which is a really good neighborhood. This would probably be like a C-class neighborhood. It's a duplex. Investor comes in, puts $21,000 down. After you have your income, taxes, insurance, lawn, water, sewer, which is like utilities expense, your debt service, and then your net cash flow is $288 a month. So investor comes in, buys the duplex, $21K down, making $288 a month in net cash flow. And here's another very similar property, very similar numbers, just a little bit more down, higher purchase price, rent, taxes, insurance, utilities, debt service. So they put in $26,000 and they make $369 a month. So that's kind of what the turnkey business is like, just like these 3 properties. We're doing this all day long, 10 to 20 homes a month in Memphis and Cleveland, Ohio, and looking to expand that into other markets. But how the hell did I'm 25 years old right now, but when I graduated, I was 22 because it was 2017. And how did I go from that $40,000 to continue, just in a matter of a couple of years, build up the business to where it is today, doing this much volume every single month or every single year? And so it all started with really doing joint ventures with people. So while I was in college, remember I said I moved all my classes from 5 to 10 p.m. During the day, I was networking with a ton of people in LA. And I would go to them and be like, hey, I'm a college kid at Loyola Marymount University. I want to invest in real estate, or I am investing in real estate in Memphis. What do you do? How much money do you have? What are you looking to invest in? Why haven't you invested? And a lot of people had money in the bank, like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 bucks, but they just couldn't figure out how they can invest that money in California. And I became that solution because they were just looking at the wrong thing. They shouldn't have been looking at investing in California. They should have been looking at investing out of state. And so I provided that investment opportunity for these people here in California. And this is exactly what I did. So I would come to them with a property, 123 Main Street, and be a 3-month project where we're going to buy it, rehab it, rent it out, and then sell it on my website, martelturnkey.com, for example. So we'd buy it for $25,000, rehab $22,000, taxes, insurance, closing. Total cost is $50,000. I will raise the money from an equity investor for $45,000. I'll put some skin in the game, $5,000. We'll sell it for $60,000, so that's a $10,000 profit in 3 months. Equity investor will make $5,000. I'll make $5,000. So I'll double my money. And then the equity investor makes a really good return on their money because it's only a 3-month project, right? So that's really how I started. And what I realized after doing this, 5, 6, 7, 8 times was I was giving away a lot of my profits away. But this is a great way to start, especially when it's your first, second, third, fourth deal, because a lot of people are not going to trust you or trust your system or your process. So you kind of have to start in this way, because people don't trust you and you don't have a proof of concept yet. Later on, what I realized, another way that I can raise money is through private money lending. And so the way that we raise money through this is a little bit different. So it's more of a debt financing instead of equity. And we pay our investors a 12% annualized interest on a promissory note instead of giving them an equity in the deal. So same deal, all in for 50. The investor comes in with 45,000 bucks. I come in with 10%. Same sales price, profit is $10,000. Now, instead of giving 50% of the profits away, I'm bringing it on the investor, and they're just making an interest payment. So they're just getting an interest payment. I'm sorry. So they're making 1% of $45,000 for 3 months. So they're making $1,350, and I'm walking away with the rest. And so this, for me, is still a model that I'm doing today. We're raising money at anywhere from 8 to 12% annualized interest, and this was a totally scalable model that we're still doing today. Where you can make more money for every single deal once you've built up the business and the model. This is what we're doing today. Now, you might be thinking like, oh, okay, 3 months of work, and you're only making $8,500 a month, right? So like, you're making like $2,800 a month. I can make more money working at Starbucks, and you probably could, but the goal is to build a scalable model, which in which you're doing 10 or 20 of these a month and building a real business behind it. So let's say this is how we started with 40 to 50,000 bucks. Well, let's say you wanted to replicate the same thing and you had somebody close to you or a business partner that, can fund the deal, that can fund, the business side. So $50,000 is a starting investment. You'd be able to do 10 deals at once because you put $5,000 into every single deal. Average project length would be 3 months. So you'd be able to do 3 deals a month. The profit per deal would be $8,500. So you'd be making $25,000 a month with just an original $50,000 starting point. If you can do 3 deals a month, just 3 deals a month, with these same exact financials, you could be making $25,000 a month if you just scale it up. And doing 3 deals a month is not that difficult if it's literally just 1 or 2 people. So now I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about the BRRRR strategy, or what I use to go from having that first house to having 8 to 10 single family homes. And that's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So let's take that same deal where we're buying it for 25, rehab 22, all in for 50. It's worth 60,000 bucks after. So once I buy it and renovate it and rent it out, now it's the refinance part. So once it's at the refinance part, I go to the bank and I say, hey, bank, I bought this house and renovated it. It's worth $60,000. Now, the bank is going to do an appraisal, verify it's worth that money, and they're going to write you a check 80% loan to value. So they're going to give you a loan which is 80% of the value, which is $48,000. Your cost for the property were $50,000 less your financing, because essentially you have 50 grand in the house. The bank is going to write you a check for $48,000. So you're going to get a check for $48,000, which means you left $2,000 in that deal. Now let's just look at some normal cash flows for a property like we showed you before. So this house, for example, if it's worth 60 grand, it rents out for 700, taxes, insurance, property management, debt service. So that property is going to make $230 a month. But I have my 48 grand back in the bank. I left 2 grand in the deal, and I'm making $230 a month. So the cash on cash return is ridiculous, because $230 a month times 12 is $2,800 a month, and you only have $2,000 of your own equity left in the deal, right? So the numbers may seem small, but the cash on cash return, if again you can build a scalable model or system, it makes a whole lot of sense. And so that's exactly what I did, and what is completely possible with a starting number of, again, $50,000. With just 50 grand, you'd be able to buy 25 properties. The total cash left in deals would be the total amount, $50,000. The net cash flow per month would be $57.50, because it's just taking the 23 times 25. Or your net cash flow per year would be $69,000, starting with just a $50,000 investment. And this would be something that's, completely long-term without any of your money. So if you can replicate this thing just 25 times, I mean, you're making a full-time salary for the rest of your life, just by repeating this process 25 times, which I repeated. Remember, in 2017, at 22 years old, I repeated it 10 times and then started selling the properties. And that's it. So if anybody has any questions or anything I can answer, I'd love to do so.
I think you have a couple of questions in the chat, and for other students, guys, if you have any questions, just ask him. We're all trying to learn. Maybe we're at kind of different levels. So even if you don't understand some of the terms or anything, I think we'll be happy to explain anything.
Yeah, of course.
So I had a question.
Sure.
I got kind of late, so I don't know if you already answered this or not, but how did you locate the properties?
Properties are found mostly on Zillow, just online, Zillow, Redfin, those kinds of places. That's literally how I started, was just looking at stuff on Zillow and Redfin. That's it.
Well, how were you able to determine that it was you get a good cash on cash return from it?
So how do you determine you're going to get a good cash on cash return? I mean, so the cash on cash return aspect is right here, right? So I think this is what you're talking about, this, right?
Yeah.
So the rental income, I mean, you can go to a website. I'll type it in the chat. There's a website called Rent-A-Meter. You can literally type in I can type 123 Main Street. It's going to tell me on average what it's going to rent out for. Taxes and insurance can be looked up. So taxes specifically can be looked up. And then insurance, you can just talk to a local insurance guy. Property management is just 10% of the rental income. And then debt service is just a loan calculation. So really, the only thing you need is the rental income and the taxes. And most of the time on Redfin and Zillow, they actually have the tax number there. So it's not that difficult. You can go to any property on Zillow and Redfin and type the address in Rent-A-Meter, come up with the rent amount, and then boom, you can create this super simple cash on cash return.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. I was wondering what makes Martel turnkey different than, say, a provider that's actually in Cleveland or someone. Why would someone prefer to buy a turnkey provider in LA out of Cleveland?
Yeah, good question. So, man, that's a good one. So there's not many turnkey providers in Cleveland, Ohio. There was a couple of big boys, but they kind of started to fall off almost. And I think that by us being in California, we kind of understand what it's like to be an out-of-state owner and investor, whereas the companies that are local to Cleveland, they don't put as much processes or systems in place that we do for our turnkey customers, because they're just thinking, just how they would manage it or whatever. Like, they can go drive to the title company, or or drive to the property management office if they need to pick up a key or something like that. So I think it actually plays to our benefit because we're sitting in the same exact seat as our turnkey customer or client is. Because nobody who's buying, let's say it was a Cleveland turnkey company, all like 95% of my clients are going to be out of state clients, right? So they kind of have to, it's more difficult for them to kind of come up and answer all those questions. We already know what they are because we've already done that whole out of state investing thing, and we know what the biggest pain points are. So therefore, with our system and business model, we're able to fix those problems right from the get-go. Good question though, because that's one of the things when I first started too, and getting into a turnkey company, I'm like, I'm never going to beat these guys. Like, how the hell is some 22, 23-year-old kid going to beat the guy who's there locally, right? You would think it would never happen. And there's big guys in Memphis that are doing 40 houses a month, right? And we'll get there too. We're just super early on in the process, but I mean, they've been doing it for years, and yeah, they have property management in-house and all of these things. And you know, if you're going and saying, how am I gonna beat these guys, these big guys who are doing 40 houses a month? There's a lot of, even in Memphis, we're able to do 10, 20 houses a month as well. And those guys are still doing their 40 houses a month. So there's plenty of deals and stuff to go around as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Antoine. So as college students, we don't have like as much flexibility to travel to Cleveland and Memphis to kind of judge the rehab costs. So how are you able to kind of estimate like the price point at the rehab?
Yeah, good question. So when I was in college, so I bought my first house in college, remember? So that first house I bought in college, I stayed in California. I bought the first 3 or 4 houses in California. I never went to the property, never did anything like that. What I did, I found a good property management company and a good realtor, and I had them refer me to contractors, and I had them go to the house with those contractors to walk the property to get scopes of work. And then I kind of paid the realtor almost like so they get a closing cost, or like when they make an offer for you, they get like a buying commission, right? And then I would pay them extra money to manage those renovation projects, for example. So like, for example, in here, the rehab cost, maybe the rehab was $20,000, but I paid the realtor $2,000 to manage the project, to go from the buy to the rehab to the rent. So the realtor or whatever person would manage all 3 of these processes for me for $2,000, for example. So that's how I would do it. I mean, now like our acquisitions team, which is a couple different people, they can kind of come up with an estimate by looking at the photos, but really you need somebody on the ground to go and do that. And so you just leverage the people on the ground who already have those relationships. That's how I did it.
Thank you. I actually had another question about your purchase price. Was that the down payment, or was that like the actual price of the property?
No, that's the actual price of the property in cash.
For $25,000?
Yes, sir.
That's nice.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, so all of this is cash, right? So I bought it literally for $25,000 cash, and then renovation, you pay it in a couple of draws, but $22,000 cash. Taxes, insurance, closing, those are kind of paid here and there throughout the process. And so, yeah, the total cash outlay was $50,000. Yeah.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
And Antoine, I have a question too. In terms of your multifamily investments, I was wondering how much of this work that you're doing can translate to this bigger project you're doing on commercial real estate.
Yeah, I mean, the commercial real estate is very similar. It's just bigger numbers, right? So like like the purchase price, and there's loans instead. So there's a couple differences. So, I mean, the apartment buildings that we bought, I mean, let me see. Wonder if I have a thing. But the apartment buildings that we bought them with a loan, right? So it's a little bit different because you're buying them with a loan. And then your renovations are in cash and all that kind of. Let me see if I can find and I could just like rip through it. So here's like a good example of an apartment building that we bought and rent. Same exact process: buy it, rehab it, rent it out, increase the rents, and then sell it. And this one's under contract to be sold December 31st of this year. And I bought it a year and a half ago. And so let's see. It's confusing. So we bought this apartment building, for example, for 450 grand. We put 110,000 bucks down, renovation 221. So the total cash in that deal was 331,000 bucks. And so it's an 11 unit building. The average rents when we bought it were here, $500 a month. And I increased them all the way up to $900 a month. So bought it for 450. The down payment was 110, renovation 221, all in for 330. Increased the rents to 500, from 500 to 900 bucks a month. And now this property is under contract, going to be sold for $1.2 million. Minus the renovation, minus. So it's going to make a profit of, is that right? Let's see, holy crap. Oh, that's fine. Phew. But it's going to make me in a year and a half, 550,000 bucks in profits for doing that deal. And so what I did pretty much was flip a bunch of the single family homes, save up this amount of money. And then I pulled the trigger on this apartment building, bought it for 450, renovated it. Now I'm going to sell it for 1.2, pay back the rehab cost and the old purchase price. And so the total profit is 529 in a year and a half. I don't know if I put the date in here, but yeah, I bought this property about a year and a half ago.
And when you collect your, like, let's say this is like your exit from this building, do you plan to like put it inside back in another deal, like by using some I don't know, tax advantages or whatever, something like that?
Yeah, so Biden is praying, what you're talking about is 1031 exchange. So Biden, if he is elected, he's planning to actually get rid of that, which is going to be crazy. So we are not. What I'm planning on doing is actually taking the money. Man, where's a good number? I guess I have to do it all again. But like the amount of cash I'm going to get back, like I only owe 350 on the loan, right? So I'm going to get a cash pretty much for 850 grand that's going to hit the bank account. And what I'm going to do with that is just dump it back into the Martel turnkey business, which has a lot of investors or people that were paying. Remember in the other presentation, I was saying I was paying a lot of people the 12% annualized return. I'm essentially going to go back to those people and be like, hey, we don't need your money anymore. Here's a check, and just write a bunch of checks and pay people off to reduce our financing costs on Martel turnkey. We thought about taking the money and putting it into a new building or something like that. We just have a really good opportunity right now with Martel turnkey, with the new hires, the way the business is growing. It just makes more sense to put the money, pay the taxes, and put the money into something that we know is going to work, instead of, the business could, if used the cash, the return would be way better than going and putting it into a new building. So we pretty much used math to determine what was the best way to go with that.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Somebody said in the chat, did you use delayed financing with the BRRRR to scale so quickly in the beginning? Yeah, so I used actually a local credit union to do the refinances, because most lenders won't let you refinance that quickly, but you have got to find some weird lenders that aren't like, Wells Fargo or whatever, to help you do cash out refinances quicker. As a college student with limited capital and credit, how are you able to secure these mortgages to finance? Great question. So I use my dad's name and credit to get those first loans from the credit unions. I probably could have used my own because it was through a credit union, but we ended up using his name and credit. He just had a better credit score, so we can get better rates. And yeah, I mean, that was a key to me being able to do anything, right? First of all, his $40,000, and then second of all, him like willing and able to sign on loans. And you know, if you don't have a dad or parent like that that's willing to do that, you really have to find somebody in your close circle that maybe you can be the hustler and go find the deals and put them all together, and they just sign the dotted line and put their credit up or their money up. So trust me, there's a lot of people out there, and I've met them, and they're here in California.
Wait, could you explain the difference between like getting a loan from a credit union or like a typical bank?
It's pretty much the same process. They're just going to have different rules or regulations. So like, whereas, for example, like a Wells Fargo on like a cash out refinance, like the one I showed you, they're going to ask for like, they're going to give you like a 70% loan to value. So the loans they give are not as great as if you went to a local credit union in Memphis, Tennessee to refinance a Memphis property. They can give you a way bigger and larger loan amount for the same interest rate, or maybe even higher interest rate. But so it really depends. I wish there was like a easy to use like spreadsheet or like Rolodex of all the lenders and like all the different boxes, but banking is very relationship based business, right? So, and I've been learning that along the way because now we're trying to get like credit lines and all this stuff for the company. And yeah, it's hugely relationship based, and building a relationship with those bankers so that, you know, even if there was some sort of Rolodex that showed, hey, they do single family home cash out refinances at this interest rate for this LTV, you know, you can build a relationship with that lender or put, you know, $100,000 in their savings account, and then now they can give you a line of credit or do all these other crazy things. So it's really on a one-on-one basis and pitching to these bankers what your idea is or what you're trying to do.
I have another question.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask, how has your business been affected, if at all, by the virus?
Yeah, so we haven't been all that affected by the virus. It was mostly just like fear in the beginning. We were just scared of what could happen or what we thought could happen. So we slowed down our acquisitions a tiny bit, but we're still going to reach our goal this year, or be very close to our goal this year. So it didn't affect us all that much, knock on wood. There was a couple of things. I mean, right now there's like windows or appliances or those things you're trying to ship from like Home Depot are still like very delayed. They're 6 weeks instead of like 2 weeks. So there's still some delays in the construction process and all that kind of stuff, but we weren't affected all that much. I mean, even we have last year I bought about 100 units of apartments. So this was one of them, an 11 unit building. And, but it wasn't like, there wasn't like huge amount of vacancies or tenants not paying. I think out of the couple hundred tenants we have, I think there was 2 or 3 of them that like had COVID affect their income. And then they went and applied for like local government help in paying rent due to COVID, and the local government ended up paying for the rent or something, or the state ended up paying for the rent, kind of like a Section 8 tenant. So yeah, there wasn't that much of an effect. And I think it's because the kind of price point the markets were in, but also the price points for the rents. You know, I'm not doing like $4,000 condos in downtown LA. Where somebody loses their job and, you know, now they need to find a much cheaper place to live. We're already in that affordable housing space and sector. So like, we knew that there was a recession coming and we wanted to be positioned correctly for that. And that's why I don't do anything fancy. All the stuff I do is, not sexy at all. It's workforce housing.
Okay. Are your properties domestic, like in your area, or do you buy properties in different states?
Yeah, so I live in California. I invest in Memphis, Tennessee, and Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. And how are you able to determine whether or not a property is good from that far away?
Really building the team on the ground is the most important thing. So the property manager, realtor, contractor, and then pretty much what you can do from far away is run all the numbers and make sure everything checks all your boxes. But really just building the team on the ground and then taking their information and plugging it into your calculator or system or process. And that's kind of how we determine if we're moving forward or not.
So you would hire like property managers inside Memphis, Tennessee, and then get input from them?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
When you're trying to determine like the renovation costs, are there certain criteria you're looking for, or like certain things that you want to improve on?
I don't know. It's a hard question. I mean, so like the goal for our renovation is clean, safe, and livable. So it's not like a crazy, maybe this will answer your question. It's not like some crazy renovation. It's like, let's see. So this, for example, is one of the properties, right? So we painted the exterior. Looks like the windows are older windows, but painted the brick exterior, new exterior lights, landscaping. This is just old flooring we left in because it was in good shape. You just buff it, clean it up, paint it, new ceiling fan. See what I'm saying? It's kind of just making it up to this level. So we'll buy houses that like don't have cabinets, or the countertops all messed up, or there's no backsplash, or the kitchen flooring needs to be replaced. But this is the kind of quality that I'm saying we kind of bring our houses up to. So hopefully that answers kind of your question. But just making them clean, safe, and livable. And this one, rents it out for $750 a month. And the tenant just moved in a couple of weeks ago. So this is the kind of, so you can go on Zillow, like just put this address and just find something right next to it. And you'll see stuff for, like, this is a really, you'll see stuff for like 40 or 50 grand in here. And you'll be like, okay, cool, 40 or 50 grand. I can spend, 20 or 30 grand on renovation, and I can sell it for 85, for example. And that's kind of how you come up with your budget. And with that budget, hopefully you can get it to this quality of a job. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so just like generally like more presentable.
Yeah, more presentable. Yeah, just think clean, safe, livable.
Gotcha.
That's it. I just keep like repeating that to my contractors all day long. It's because I can. So I think this renovation, let's say it's like it was 25 grand or something like that, or $20,000. I could have easily spent like $50,000, right? Like there's stuff not perfect with it. Like these two floorings don't match. So if I wanted to, I can spend an extra $5 grand and make all the floor the same and make it tile and make it nice. I could, upgrade these cabinets and make them much nicer. I can put a new sink in that's, much fancier sink. I could put granite. I could put much nicer tile. You see what I'm saying? Like there's no limit to how much money I could spend. The question is spending the right amount of money to get it to the right quality. Because I could spend an extra $30,000 on renovation, and I might get like an extra $50 a month in rent or $100 a month in rent. It doesn't really matter in this neighborhood if I have granite or stainless steel or stuff like that. People are just not willing to pay for it in this kind of neighborhood.
Okay. Would there be like certain renovations like required that it's like just a straight up like it's too much hassle, or like it turns away a deal?
Yep. So like fire damage, and then also like full gut or like roof caving in. So all of those things, especially when like houses are only worth like, I'd say this was worth like 75 grand, right? So like you put a new roof, which is like $5,000, and then a new HVAC. And then like it needs a new driveway, and it needs a new, like we're already at $15,000. The house is only worth, you know what I'm saying? So, and then you have fire damage, which you have to remediate and get rid of all the old bad wood. Like we're at $25,000 for a house that's completely messed up, and that's 25,000 out of, that's 30% of the value of the property just in, getting rid of that fire damage and the roof had caved in kind of thing.
Right,
So normally the deals just don't work because we would have to get them. Like I've sent emails to people like listing agents who have been listing houses for fire damage properties, or like completely like the house needs to be gutted. where the renovation is like 60 grand and the house is worth 70. And I'm like, hey, I need the house for free. Like, I'll buy the house for $1, because there's no other number that works. Because if your budget is 60 grand and you need to sell it at a profit, let's say you want to make 10,000 bucks, you know, you're at 70 grand. So I need the house for free, you know?
Would this be specific to like Martel Turnkey? Because I saw that like in your earlier ones, the house price was about 25 and you spent 22 on renovations.
Yeah, so that it really depends. The presentation, it was really just an example. Of course, it completely varies, right? So I think that like the first presentation, like the house was only worth, what was it worth? 60,000 bucks. Yeah, so most of the properties we do now are like anything from 70 to like 100. So yeah, our purchase prices are not that low anymore. Trust me, you could still find deals where you're buying them for 25,000 bucks. It's just we've been buying properties much more expensive and selling them much higher. But the renovation costs, I mean, we spend probably 15 to 40 or 30,000 bucks on a per deal basis. So yeah.
I had a question about your renovations.
Sure.
Did you always pull out loans, or did you ever use personal cash?
Yeah, we
renovations?
started using personal cash and then slowly started using other people's money to help us scale, because it was kind of required. We had kind of, once I had bought those first 8 properties with my family's money, or my dad's 40,000 bucks, then it was kind of like, okay, how do I do more of this? Because I have a team in place. How do I continue doing this over and over again? The only way was bringing in other people's money.
I see. Thank you. I have one more question.
Yeah.
When you first started up, how long did it take for you to like find tenants, like an average?
So tenants are all handled by property management. Property management should be filling vacant units in like 2 weeks, maybe. So it should just take around 2 weeks if you hire the right company.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
For your first property, did you hire a property manager beforehand, or did you do that afterwards?
Property manager beforehand. You want to get all that junk lined up before you sign the dotted line on anything. So make sure everything. So like the process is you make an offer on a house, you get it under contract, and you have like 30 days of due diligence. And within that due diligence, you want to make sure you got property management lined up. You have a physical bid from a contractor, physical invoice from an insurance guy. So all of these like numbers here, you need to have hard copies of all these bloody things here to make sure that everything lines up before you send $1 to the title company. So you already know what the purchase price is, but getting a hard quote from a contractor on this, and then insurance, you want to make sure you have a hard quote on all that stuff. So you have that 30-day period to figure all that BS out. And if you don't, then you can back out of the deal and go continue looking elsewhere.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that like light rehabs, how are you able to increase the value of the property so much when you sell it?
So they're not that light of a renovation. I mean, I wish I had some like before and after. They're not as light as you would think. So $20,000 in California is not $20,000 in Memphis or Cleveland, right? So your dollar goes a lot further. Like with 20 grand, I can put a new HVAC in, exterior paint. I can put in, new flooring. I can do new kitchen, new bathroom, right? So I can do a lot of those things and get them up to that quality. The thing is buying it right? So buying it at the right price to where you can spend that renovation dollars to get that value. So there's not like, we are doing $20,000 is a pretty good budget to increase that value. And I mean, before we buy anything as well, we make sure that, where's the other thing? So this house was worth 60,000 bucks after, right? So what we do is we'll take this address, we'll go look at Zillow and look at houses that have sold around that property in the last 6 months and come up with comps and be like, okay, this is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and it's renovated in this way, and it's sold for 60 grand. There's another one that sold for 65, one that sold for 58. Okay, cool. So it's around 62 or $60,000 if we renovate it in this way. And then we get a scope of work to renovate the house from, from A to what we need it to get it at.
Got it. So when you're looking at a property before you submit an offer and before it closes and all that, you have to estimate the rehab costs somehow. Do you send every deal to your contractor and like estimate it like that, or because that's gonna like burn your contractor out a bit? So how do you do that before you ever submit an offer?
Yeah, so we have like a minimum. So like our guys are pretty good now, like the acquisitions guys, at looking at a deal just on Zillow, and by looking at the photos, coming up with kind of how much renovation we think we're going to spend, just because they've analyzed 1,000 of these things now. So we come up with a number up front to get us an offer, and so we'll literally like build this thing pretty much that you see here. Like, hey, it's listed for 30 grand. We need to buy for 25, and our budget's 22. Blah blah blah, and we're going to sell it for 60. So this meets our numbers, etc. So submit an offer for $22,000. We'll submit the offer. If it gets accepted, then we'll send the contractor through. And then if this rehab cost comes back at, instead of 22 to be 26, then I'll go back to the seller and be like, hey, I need a price reduction. I can't make it work. Blah blah blah. And then they either accept it or deny it. So we don't really kill our contractors in that way, because they're only going out when he has something in paper, we're under contract, and we're exclusive to that deal.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Specifically on your promissory notes, did you run into any issues like logistically, or more so maybe trying to convince people give you large amounts of money? I mean, because you were probably 22, 23, 24.
Yeah, man.
Asking people for a decent sum of money.
I know. Yeah. It's a challenge for sure. But the thing is, I put in the work beforehand. So like, again, it took me 2 years of like studying, listening to podcasts, learning as much as I possibly could before I ever did that first deal. Right. So then I would go on biggerpockets.com, network with a ton of people there. And through that networking, people would kind of be blown away almost like, hey, what, you're doing this, or you've done like 3 deals in Memphis, and I'm 55 years old and I have 100 grand in the bank. And they're like, I want to do exactly what you're doing. How can we do a deal together? And by the way, how old are you? And then I told them how old I am, and then their brain would kind of explode back then. Right. And so, yeah, it happened all the time. And the reason why I believe that I was able to get those first 5, 10, 20 investors is didn't have anything to do with my age. It was really just about my knowledge about being able to answer every single question or concern or pain point that they did have. It was a sales pitch essentially, right? And so I had it down to the T. Any question that they asked me, I mean, I had an answer for it, or a reason why it would work in our favor, or based on my experience with the last 5 deals, why we'll be good, or that's not going to be an issue, kind of thing. And so I think it was both just my knowledge, because I'd put in the work of years of just learning as much as I possibly could, and then I also had started to get a track record, right? So when I went to do the private money lending, because of course the return's not as great, right? Whereas the equity investing, people are like, okay, I got 50% of the deal. Okay, cool. Like, I have an equity stake. It's not just like getting a high interest loan. So when I went to get these private money loans, I had some deals under my belt. So it was kind of like, hey, here's a list of like 5 or 7 deals that I've done. And then also like, let's sit down for coffee and meet up. And then I'd have a 1-hour conversation with those people, etc. So yeah, it took a long time, but yeah.
So as I understand, for refinancing, it can only be done when the property has increased in value. So how long did it take for you to be able to refinance like the initial properties that you had?
Yeah, good question. So So big lenders will have what's called a seasoning period. So that means you need to like be an owner of that property for like 6 months. So they have 6 months of seasoning. So you have to buy the property, own it for 6 months before you can do a refinance, right? Other banks like credit unions sometimes have no seasoning. So I found this credit union that had no seasoning. This was back in 2017. COVID has like completely changed a lot of banking, but this was back in 2017. And so what happened was I would buy the property, renovate it for 30 days, rent it out the other 30 days. So at month 2, it was renovated and rented out. Then I would go to the bank because they didn't have any seasoning requirements. And I would go to them and be like, hey, I just bought this house. I renovated it, rented it out. Like, you want to do an appraisal on it and then give me a loan at 80% loan to value? Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thanks for investing in our local market and changing house and blah, blah, blah. And so that's how I was able to get those initial cash out refinance loans.
So given the example of like the 60K property that you had, about how much would you be able to take out from that property?
Yeah, here, I have it right here. So again, we go to the bank and it's worth 60 grand after, and then they'll give us, so we'll go to the bank at 60 grand and they'll give us a loan for 80% of that value. So 48,000 bucks.
Okay.
Would be the new loan.
Got it. Would it make a
Got it.
difference if the credit union is in state or not?
So I decided to go with I mean, you can try finding, dude, I have like the longest Excel spreadsheet for blenders you've ever seen. I've called so many of them, and like I have like our own spreadsheet of like all these different lenders, their requirements, their seasoning period. Like I literally made one, right, over the years, just collecting information. I found that the local credit unions will just they're more lenient, I guess, and more open to the fact of investing in their local market compared to like you go to a credit union or a bank in LA or something like that. Most of them don't even lend outside of California, either because they don't have the licenses to, or they just are not interested in it. And so finding banks in the local market right next to the properties, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's in Whitehaven. Okay, great. Yeah, we know that area. Oh, we know this house, or we know the neighbor's house, you know. And so they were just able to get way more comfortable with lending to those properties.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, I got a question.
Yep.
So when you're dealing with that promissory note and all that and raising money from investors and stuff, it sounds like you would need a lawyer. So when did you bring a lawyer into your team, and how much did that cost? And when did,
So I never brought a lawyer in. We only brought a lawyer in, I think, once we started doing the apartment buildings, and brought a lawyer in for other reasons, not relating to the private money lending or promissory note. I mean, dude, we can like watch this. So this is not how I got my promissory note, but it's super easy to just go on a website like this and create a pre-promissory note template. And they're pretty standard. This is legit what my promissory note looks like. I just cleaned it up and I didn't make it notarized. And so that's how we started doing it. We didn't want to get lawyers involved. I didn't want the lawyer expense. I just wanted to have, some legal document, and, 250 houses later, knock on wood, we've been able to pay every single investor back their interest plus their principal back on every single loan that we've taken in. And so there never has been an issue, or never has needed an issue. Sometimes the investors will come in with their own lawyer. And so I'll send them this promissory note. The lawyer will review it, and the lawyer will pretty much say, yeah, it's a promissory note. We can add this thing or add that thing. And you can decide as the, investor who's doing the deal, if you want to make those changes. I have never changed my promissory note for any lawyer or anything like that. I prefer to get as far away as the lawyers as possible.
A question I wanted to ask you is, so basically in your company, you guys specialize in doing this type of renovation. And I was wondering if you ever looked at different types of renovations other than this that you could do to a building, or you specifically want to stick to your strategy. And for example, I see many people they specialize in retrofitting or doing other kinds of jobs. One interesting one I was seeing was from this real estate developer in New York, where he already was, big into the, I believe, storage space.
Yep.
And so they have these big hangars with lots of roof space, and he decided to basically do this massive solar installation on his rooftop, and now he's like selling energy to like 300 homes or something like that. So he started doing other types of renovations, but he started out similarly like you. He's basically buying storage facilities and renovating them inside as you do, maybe fixing up the roof or whatever else he needs to do. And then he recently just got into this type of energy business as well with real estate.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, this would be a good example of like a different style of renovation. Whereas the single family home I just showed you, like we'd probably just fix this. The flooring actually looks to be in pretty good shape. Maybe fix the wood here and then, fix all the hardware or something like that. But for these apartment building units, I mean, this is like Formica or faux granite. This is like Formica countertop, all new cabinets, stainless steel appliances, got rid of this junk. And then this is tile flooring. So yeah, we do. But the reason was because I could increase the rent from 500 to 900. If I left it like this, the rent would go from 500 to maybe 650. And so it made sense for me to spend the money because of the neighborhood, because Rent-A-Meter, that website I told you, was telling me that I could rent it out for $900 a month, based on, this apartment building here or this building here. And I would go look at the photos of those units and I was like, holy crap. All right, let me go and make the units just like them. Let me copy the units and the renovations, and I'll get them right up to that style of renovation. And so, yeah, you can see the photos on the left are the renovation we did. It's super nice. These are French doors that open up into a balcony. This is the bathroom. None of our single family homes are like this. Most of the single family homes we do are here on the right, which, compared to the photo on the left, looked absolutely horrible. But the neighborhood and the data has to tell you what style and what kind of renovation you should be doing, right? So we kind of let that, you have to remove all emotions, and it really is just a numbers game.
And so you're saying that with these buildings, you're able to do nicer renovation because you have kind of better economies of scale, I guess?
Yeah, better economies of scale, but also this is in a better neighborhood, and it really depends on neighborhood and what's local around there and what people are paying. Like, what are the comps telling you that people are paying? So the single family homes, like the other home in the other thing that I was telling you about, like there's no houses rented there for $900 a month, right? Unless they're huge properties, but most of the houses are the same square footage. And so here it made sense because there was some data telling me that it was possible, but the other houses in the single family home neighborhoods or other neighborhoods, there's no comps for $900 a month.
And so the way you decide this, so you basically listen to the market a lot. And do you do the same in terms of like the looks of your renovation? Because it looks like really modern and stylish. Do you pick these things
so
by your own preference, or like how do you choose like what kind of the style of the renovation?
So the apartment buildings look identical. So every single apartment building that you see that I've renovated, exactly the same way. So like from the inside to the exterior, we do the same exterior paint job, and all the units on the inside are exactly identical. Single family homes, it kind of depends. You'll see a lot of the same paint on the exterior. But the renovations vary because sometimes we'll use, like, here's another house. Oh no, that's a bad one. But let's see. So it kind of depends on the house and if we're keeping certain things in the property. Like this is a single family home in Cleveland we did, which, you know, is not quite the quality of the apartment, but not quite as because we put new flooring in here. We've refinished the cabinets and all that kind of stuff and put new hardware on it. But this one has brand new flooring because probably the flooring was in pretty rough shape. So see what I'm saying? It kind of depends on the neighborhood and area, but most of the renovations are pretty similar to this. Just clean, safe, and livable is what you're looking for.
Gotcha. Okay. And Antoine, I want to be thoughtful of your time. It's already 7:07. Do you guys want to take one? If anybody has like one last question, maybe, and then we'll let Antoine go.
Sure. I had a question regarding real estate agents. Do you typically work with a particular real estate agents, or does it vary from time to time? And how do you find the real estate agents that you do work with?
So you want to be, I've learned over the years, like being as loyal as possible matters. So for me, like property management, I use the same one over and over. Realtor, I use the same one over and over. Title company, even same one over and over and over and over. I'm able to then get cheaper rates, build a greater relationship, and then do more together. And then also, like, for example, like reason why I use the same broker or realtor every single time. Now, whenever they, like the broker and realtor we're using in Memphis and in Cleveland, they're bringing us deals now. Whereas we used to just submit offers through them. They're bringing offers because they're doing 10 houses a month and they're making, you know, $5,000, $10,000 a month just on commissions from just us. So now they're like, oh shit, okay, I have this house was sent to me. I'm going to send it to Antoine because easy to work with, no BS, and I know he's going to pay me my commission without complaining about it, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, repeating, same thing with title company. Like title companies, we use them for all of our transactions. So we used to pay like $600 or $700 a month. Now we're paying $300 a month for closing costs because we just built that relationship. And after we did, you know, 50 closings, 30 closings, we went and said, hey, you know, can you give us an investor rate? Like we only use you guys and blah, 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 blah. They said, absolutely. We'd love to keep your business. And as a thank you, sure, we'll cut your rate in half.
And how'd you find them? How'd you pick them as opposed to other individuals?
How did I pick them? Man, it's pretty glaring once you start going out there and networking with realtors or property managers, which ones you should be using and which ones you should stay the hell away from. When I first started in college in my dorm room, literally I was cold calling real estate agents in Memphis, Tennessee. And I probably made 200 phone calls in Memphis, Tennessee, cold calling agents. Out of those 200 phone calls, cold calls, only one of them was like somebody who understood investing, understood the process that I was explaining, which is what I just told all of you, buying it, rehabbing it, renting it out, and like only 1 out of 200 people understood, less than 1% understood. So it's going to be pretty clear once you get out there and start networking and talking to people like, hey, this guy understands the business model, knows what the hell I'm talking about, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, cool. And then, yeah, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to follow me on Instagram. There's a ton of like free stuff there and content if you want to learn more about what I do, and I'm posting consistently. You can DM me too if you have any other questions as well. I'd love to help you guys out.
Thanks.
Cool.
Awesome. I'll actually post here his Instagram on the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. Like, it's a ton of value and knowledge. I hope everything goes smoothly with this, you know, this freaking election and pandemic together.
I know, right? It's crazy times. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
See ya.